This is the Chris Christie interview on CBS Face the Nation this morning. And I gotta tell you, I watched every single one of these channels, and I have no respect for any of these guys. Out of all of them, and the one that I'm probably going to do fourth will be the Fox News report. I have the most respect for Chris Wallace out of all these guys. After him, Joy Reid is pretty good at trying to force answers, and then the moderators severely drop off. I really don't have a lot of respect for this guy. The ABC lady, which I forget her name, I'll mention that when I do her particular segment, and you know, basically Chuck Todd. So anyway, here we go with the Chris Christie interview.
Meeting this week between Donald Trump and the Mexican president. What was the point of that meeting?
Well, listen, I think that what Donald Trump wants to show everyone is that he will be a leader for all Americans, and he'll be someone who's going to reach out, even when he has some disagreements with a foreign leader, to reach out and open a dialogue. And I think the words he used at the end of that meeting were very important. That he enjoyed the meeting, that he likes President Peña Nieto, and that he thinks they can work together to help improve the economies of Mexico and the United States. All those things are very important, and I think those are things that they also stand for, which are that they're going to fight for the people of their country. I don't think anyone would expect anything less from a President Trump or President Peña Nieto, but I think the meeting was to make sure everybody understands that this is going to be a president who will work with our allies to make sure that lives of citizens in both countries improve over the next 4 years.
No, the purpose of the meeting was a photo op to show Donald Trump as being more presidential. All of the goodwill that he got out of that photo op got destroyed when he gave that speech that same evening, where he threw red meat out to his supporters and stated that Mexico is going to pay for the wall, they just don't know it. That blew up any type of goodwill that he might have had from that meeting.
So after the meeting, Donald Trump then gave a speech in Arizona in which he said they don't know it, but they're going to pay for the wall. He was talking about Mexico. After setting up a meeting to show this part of his character and building a relationship with Mexico, why say something like that to show that he's dominating the Mexicans, or would, as president? How does that work? Isn't that a mixed message?
No, John, I think he was just being candid. I mean, that's one of the areas that obviously they disagree upon and are going to have to be the topic of further discussion going forward. But I think what Donald was doing was being very candid with the American people about this is one of the areas where they disagree.
Unfortunately, he wasn't as candid with the president of Mexico.
This is the kind of transparency you get from Donald Trump, as opposed to what you get from Hillary Clinton, who hasn't had, you know, a press conference in nearly 10 months, hides, doesn't answer questions except for high-dollar donors. I mean, the fact is that Donald Trump's going to tell you exactly what he thinks. Sometimes you'll agree with it, sometimes you won't. But you'll never have to wonder. Hillary Clinton, she's the mystery woman of 2016. All we know is that she's told us she had one device, and that's why she used her private email server, John. And now we find out this week from the FBI, 13 different mobile devices and 5 different iPads, most of which are now gone.
I got to give it to Chris, though. It took him a while to pivot to Hillary Clinton, but as with all good Trump surrogates, he got there.
The wall that Donald Trump is talking about, do you think that's really going to happen, that Mexico's going to pay for it?
Listen, I think that Donald Trump has negotiated some extraordinary deals over the course of time in his career, and this will be another challenging deal for him to negotiate, but I absolutely believe that's the way he sees it, and it'll be part of an overall negotiation with Mexico to improve the economies in both countries and to make sure that the lives of the people in both countries are protected from drug running and gun running and illegal immigration, which is hurting both countries, John. So listen, people have lost a lot of money so far in the last 16 months betting against Donald Trump.
Okay, so you mean that the Mexican people who have stated emphatically that they're not paying for a wall, they're going to swallow and pay for a wall. This is a matter of national pride at this point for them not to pay for the wall. So any politician from Mexico that makes any kind of an agreement to make any kind of payment for that wall will either be run out of the country or shot as a traitor. So you can forget about Mexico paying for this wall. To their last breath, they are not paying for this wall. And anybody that says any different is kidding themselves.
Because the wall is such an important part of his candidacy. You said during the primaries, this makes no sense, referring to the wall. I've met President Peña Nieto a number of times. I don't think if we present him with a bill, he's going to pay for it. So were you wrong then?
Yeah, see, now this is just an example of all of these Trump surrogates that ran against Trump rolling over and turning their butts up in the air for everybody to see. And Chris was basically one of the first ones to do it.
Yeah, I disagreed with Donald Trump at the time. Big shock. I was running against him, John. And so
that wasn't the question. The question was, were you right or wrong at that time? And obviously at that time you were right, but now that you're back in Trump, you got to fall on your sword and say that you were just saying that because you were running against them. Yeah, okay.
Let's pull out all the quotes where people who are now supporting Hillary Clinton disagreed with her during the primary as well, so we can be fair about this. Of course I disagreed with him because I was running against him.
But
The fact is,
but do you think
a
it's
lot of
possible
people,
now?
but John, a lot of people, myself included, have lost betting against Donald Trump. And I think he's going to be a very good negotiator for the American people, not only on this issue, but on trade deals that'll help improve our economy and to make the world safer and more secure.
On the question of the 11 million undocumented, there's been some confusion, and Donald Trump at one point said they would be leaving America so fast it would make your head spin. Now he's saying it's something that'll be worked out. In the way we've seen immigration talked about, that kind of softening, to use his word, usually is a prelude to not ultimately dealing with all 11 million. That's what it feels like here. Why is that not the case? Why is this not basically moving away from his position he had in the primary?
Listen, we want candidates and leaders to listen, and if they hear new information or different information that leads them to conclude different things in their positions, we want them to do that, John. We don't want people stuck in cement. Be really clear. Donald Trump is going to get rid of very early on the 2 to 3 million criminals that are here illegally in this country. That will be priority number one. And once we remove those 2 to 3 million from the country, return them to their countries of origin because of their criminal conduct, then I think what Donald Trump wants to do is take a deep breath and look at where we are in the country then and find a humane way to deal with those who remain.
Okay, see, now this is bullshit because Trump said all 11 million gotta go. It doesn't matter what, all 11 million gotta go. Now, all of a sudden, they want to get rid of the criminals first, and let me add something that Chris didn't. They want to get rid of all of the overstays as far as visas are concerned, and then they want to deal with their number, 4.5 million, my number, 6 million, that are going to be left. How do I arrive at my number? Well, Chris used an overinflated number of 2 to 3 million. The actual number of criminals, documented criminals in this country, is closer to 800,000. Okay, not 2 million, 800,000. The Trump people took a figure from the Department of Homeland Security, which they had some fairly decent numbers, and they grossly overinflated it. And the reason they overinflated it was because a person went in and jacked up those numbers. I forget what her name is. And then they took her numbers and used her numbers, and then they further inflated it. The estimated number of people that are overstaying their visas was approximately 4 million. Now, I don't know if that number is high or low. And again, that number or some derivative of that number, again, came from the Department of Homeland Security. So we really don't know what the number is. But the bottom line is, we're going to have at least 4 million people that are not criminals, not overstaying visas, that are undocumented and here illegally. And nobody is saying what they're going to do with those people. One camp is saying they're going to deal with them humanely. What does that mean? Okay, because they're not talking about granting any of them legal status, i.e. a path to citizenship, or straight out some type of okay to stay in the country. Trump's not talking about that. So we don't know exactly what he's talking about, other than they are subject to deportation, and after he gets rid of the first two groups, he's going to then turn around and go after them too.
And so I think what he's talking about is a pause after the 2 to 3 million get put out of the country because they're committing crimes, hurting Americans, selling drugs, doing things that are illegal. Once those people get dealt with first, and I think everyone agrees on that issue, then we can deal with the remaining 8 million people. That's what Donald Trump wants to do. I think that's the humane way to deal with it. And I'm proud of the fact that he's been willing to stand up and say what he really believes on this as he's learned more about the topic.
But the problem is he's not saying what he believes he wants to do with the remaining people. If we cut to the chase and say, okay, today is day one after all the criminals are out and after all the visa overstayers are out, and the laws that we have on the books today are what are in effect after this is all done. Now, what do you want to do with the people? That is the question. What do you want to do with them today? You guys don't want to answer that question. You want to push it off whatever number of years, which is just exacerbating the problem.
Your point is that this is an evolution to a pause, which shows his ability to adapt to changing information.
Absolutely, and that's something that Hillary Clinton will tell you Donald Trump can't do. But what I'll tell you about Hillary Clinton, John, is...
Again, what changing information? The information is the same today as it was when Trump entered the race. So there is no change in information. And like I said, here he comes with Hillary Clinton again. And all of them do it, and they do it on both sides. And when I make the next set of videos, I'm going to point out where the Democrats do it as well.
That she doesn't evolve. We don't even know if she evolves because she doesn't talk to anybody except for mega rich donors in the Hamptons and all over America. And Hollywood and the Hamptons are the two places where Hillary Clinton answers questions, not on shows like yours.
I hear a line of attack there that might be used in the debate. You're a part of the debate prep with Donald Trump. You also went up against him. How much does he really need to prepare for debates?
Everybody needs to prepare, John. I mean, you need to get ready. And Donald is taking that process very seriously. But in the end, there's nothing you can do in preparation that can hide the essence of who you are. The essence of who Donald Trump is an outspoken, aggressive, smart, successful businessman who's going to be a strong leader for our country.
The essence of Donald Trump is a racist, misogynist, xenophobe that is in it for himself. He lies, he cheats people that he has business transactions with. That is the essence of Donald Trump.
The essence of Hillary Clinton is she's a political insider who over and over again has not told the truth to the American people and who thinks there's a different set of rules that apply to her than everybody else.
The essence of Hillary Clinton is she's secretive, she has a history, both positive and negative. She believes that nobody has a right to her information, regardless of where they're coming from. And she basically is untrustworthy, particularly given the server BS, the Clinton Foundation interaction, though not illegal, suspect. So she's got a lot of skeletons in the closet as well.
And so you're not going to be able to hide that no matter how many coaches she hires, John, to help her in debate prep. It's not going to change the essence of who she's been and who she is. And that's what you're going to see in the debates on September 26th.
I want to ask you about a report in the Washington Post this week about Donald Trump's foundation paying a fine to the IRS for a $25,000 donation it had given to a political committee supporting Florida Attorney General Pam Bondi in 2013. She was looking into maybe investigating Trump University, ultimately didn't. Donald Trump has said he knew better than anybody how to use the system, how to use political donations to get the system to work for him. Is that an instance of that in that situation? Gave the money, then the investigation didn't happen?
That's exactly what it is. Pam Bundy solicited that donation from Donald Trump. It wasn't that he offered it. She solicited the donation. In order to get it to her, he had to run it through one of his various companies, and then they basically falsified a tax return showing that they had paid some other charitable organization. They didn't get busted on that, okay, for several years when people finally started diving in to the Trump tax return. And Donald Trump had to pay I believe it was a $2,500 fine for violating campaign contribution laws. But of course, Chris is going to try to whitewash that.
I can't believe, John, that anyone would insult Pam Bondi that way. She's an outstanding attorney general who's been reelected by the people of Florida. She's somebody who has been an outstanding law enforcement officer and continues to be. And I can't imagine that Pam Bondi would ever make decisions on that basis.
Oh, so you don't think somebody kicking in 25 grand to your campaign fund wouldn't have a material effect, especially when there was overwhelming evidence of fraud by Trump University in Florida? You can't imagine, and you call it an insult to even question it. Yeah, right.
But what I will tell you is we now know that Bill Clinton has taken over $16 million of taxpayer money to help to fund the Clinton Foundation, a foundation that essentially...
Oh, by the way, that $16 million was 100% legal and disclosed, which is above board, unlike what Trump did. Oh, and finally, Bill Clinton's not the one that's running for president. It's Donald Trump and his wife Hillary.
Was the person and the group that was screening who would get to see the Secretary of State. If you wrote your multi-million-dollar check to the Clinton Foundation, then you got to visit with the Secretary of State. There's no doubt about what was going on there, John. Same way there was no doubt that when Hillary Clinton said she had a private email server for one device, so she could use one device. We now know from the FBI she had 13 devices, one of which was destroyed with a hammer by her staff. Why were they hammering her cell phone, John? I mean, you know, let's talk about the real issues of trust in this race. And the real issues of trust in this race, and I can tell you this as a former prosecutor, I'm stunned given what I saw in the FBI files that were released Friday,
Right.
that Hillary Clinton was not prosecuted.
All right, Governor Christie.
Yeah, you and everybody else, okay? But unfortunately, you're not the chief prosecutor for the government, so that was his call. Oh, and by the way, he is a Republican, so you guys can't really attack him. Makes sense. Anyway, Chris Christie, you know, he's the straight talker, the straight shooter. He has rolled over and played dead for Donald Trump. I guess he's auditioning for a position in the Trump administration if we are unfortunate enough to have Trump win the election.